If you haven't heard of Nancy Wilson before, let me put you on game, okay? Wilson recorded more than 70 albums, 70 albums, and won 3 Grammy Awards for her work. She received many nicknames, including Sweet Nancy, The Baby, Fancy Miss Nancy, and the girl with the honey-coated voice.
I don't need your photograph to keep by my bed. I don't need your portrait, dear, to call you to mine. I'm living in a kind of daydream. I see your face in every flower, and somehow I know I'll be strong, and I'm not alone anymore. Does he have to spell it out?
Let's take a trip back to the 20th century when the world started to truly appreciate the beauty and power of Black American femininity. One woman who stood out like a diamond among gems was Nancy Wilson. She was the embodiment of elegance, allure, coolness, and royalty, a complete package of feminine charm. Her influence was as quiet as a whisper, yet as powerful as a storm. She was a trailblazer for the diva persona that dominated from the 1960s through the 1990s. Without her, we might not have seen the rise of music legends like Anita Baker, Sade, Patti LaBelle, and Toni Braxton. Nancy Wilson was nothing short of a queen, a shining example of Black excellence. She didn't need to boast about it, she simply was, and she navigated the often murky waters of the music and entertainment industry with unmatched grace and dignity. Nancy Wilson is a testament to the fact that one doesn't need to compromise their values or change themselves to find success in the music industry. She wore her upbringing like a badge of honor, using it as a source of strength that fueled an unforgettable and legendary career. Sadly, the narrative of her life isn't one we hear often. Instead of a tale of tragedy, though, Nancy Wilson's life is a triumphant story of success, a beautiful melody that continues to resonate even today. She was notorious for living a quiet and scandal-free life, aside from the music industry scandal, which we will get into, okay? She always emphasized the importance of staying out of the way and being a homebody. She stated, and I quote, "I've never been into all of that. Who I am. Comparing myself to others. You know, I was never really an A-list person. I mean, the kind of person who would be at parties, getting in trouble, and all the rest. The one good thing about reaching this point is that I can look back and know that I've used my life wisely. I'm proud of my kids, and I get time off to do nothing, which is wonderful. I couldn't be happier," end quote. She was signed to Capitol Records, and by the mid-1960s, Wilson was one of her label's best-selling artists, second only to the Beatles. She even surpassed established entertainers such as Nat King Cole, Lee, and the popular West Coast rock and roll group The Beach Boys in sales. So she was that girl, okay? Wilson was earning a generous income in excess of $1 million per year, which was a lot in her days, and her rise in popularity showed no signs of slowing down. She had also established a significant fan base overseas, especially in Japan, where she would remain a favorite for years to come. In today's video, we're going to talk about why she ended up being way more famous in Japan than she is here. Like, Japan really took her with open arms in an era where people were very, very prejudiced, okay? All over the world, there was prejudice against darker skinned people of color. So how come she got this much fame? And she got it from speaking out against the music industry, which is crazy. We're going to get into this and more, but first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, karinealourde, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars through history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so. And if you're already subscribed, please turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. Let's start first with her childhood from the very beginning, and there's not that many photos of her childhood. She was born in a small town in Ohio on February 20th, 1937, to parents Olden Wilson and Lillian Ryan, the eldest of 6 children of an iron foundry worker, and her mother was a maid. Her love for singing was ignited in the heart of her church. At just 4 years old, she already had big dreams of becoming a singer. Her early education took place at West High School in Columbus, Ohio, where she showcased her talent by winning a local ABC station-sponsored talent show at a young age of 15. This win earned her a regular spot on the TV show Skyline Melodies. After graduating high school at 17, she briefly attended Central State University, an HBCU located in Wilberforce, Ohio, but dropped out after a year to chase her musical dreams. In 1956, a determined 19-year-old Wilson auditioned for Rusty Bryan's Carolyn Club Big Band and spent the next 3 years touring with them. She moved to New York in 1959 and juggled singing 4 nights a week at the Blue Morocco nightclub with a day job as a secretary for the New York Institute of Technology. Her big break came when she signed with Capitol Records in 1960, releasing 5 albums in just 2 years. Imagine, I know if you're a musician watching this, imagine how much work it takes for 2 years for you to have 5 albums. That's how much she loved singing. She loved her craft, and it meant nothing to her to just do those 5 albums in those 2 years. 5 albums. Live albums at that, okay, in 2 years. That's a lot. Her first Grammy came in 1964 for her album, How Glad I Am. And to get you to understand, imagine your fave today in modern times, your fave, whoever, artist, singer, pop, rock, or even rap. Imagine how long it takes them to drop albums today. You can have a fave that can take 5 to 10 years off and not drop an album, but she was working. She has 70 albums to her name. She deserves her flowers. Please leave a flower emoji in the comments for Nancy Wilson, okay? Because she was a hard worker. Wilson was one of the first African-American women to appear in national television advertisements, including one for Thunderbird Wine and Campbell's Soup. More recently, her mesmerizing voice featured in Infiniti car commercials. Between 1967 and 1968, Wilson had her own NBC television series, The Nancy Wilson Show, which won her an Emmy. She made appearances on numerous other television shows and movies, including I Spy, That's Life, Room 222, The Sammy Davis Jr. Show, The Carol Burnett Show, The Cosby Show, The Killers, The Big Score, The Meteor Men, and The Naked Brothers Band, the movie. In the 1980s, Wilson took her talents overseas, recording 5 albums for Japanese labels who offered to produce live recordings. But let's take a break. Here's the full story with why she even had those 5 albums for those Japanese labels. Let's talk about it. As we approach a new decade, the music industry began to see a shift. Record companies, particularly those working with pop and rhythm and blues artists, started bringing in technology to enhance album productions. These technologies also altered the voices of their singers to sound more polished. However, not everyone was on board with this change. One such artist was Nancy Wilson. Wilson, known for her soulful and powerful voice, preferred the raw, unfiltered sound of live recording. She firmly believed that nothing should alter the natural tone of her voice or the voices of true artists. Her approach to music was simple. If she couldn't perform a song live in front of an audience, she didn't want it on her record. She wanted to always sound the exact same way live as she does on her albums. This led to some challenges for Wilson. Many American labels were eager to embrace new technologies in music production, but Wilson wasn't willing to compromise her standards. Because of this, she spent most of the 1980s recording primarily for Japanese labels. American labels were really fighting for her. Like we said, she was selling, she was making those sales, and she was producing. Unlike many artists of those days, they didn't have to harass her to drop an album. She was just dropping albums as frequent as we eat, right? Writing new songs. So any label felt like they were lucky to have her. It was Defiant. Can you imagine how angry that would make labels to feel like, hey, one of our cash cows is rebelling like this? In a 1986 interview with Jet Magazine, she explained her stance, saying, and I quote, "They've allowed me to sing so that I can sing. she's talking about Japan. I can't sing for a splice in the middle. I say, well, we'll do it from the top until you get what you want, end quote. She also added, the day music died is the day when they stopped recording live. They started doing things you can't reproduce live, end quote. This led a way for labels to now sign on just anyone with a pretty face and just use technology to fix up their voices, and the public wouldn't know the difference. So you can get just a beautiful woman, a beautiful man who can't really sing, and all of this technology alters their voice and we eat it up, but they're not authentically singing for real. It's not their real voice. In 1999, she reflected on the changes in the music industry, expressing a somewhat resigned sentiment, saying, when we were recording those Capitol albums, all of the musicians were in the same room playing, she told Weiner. Now you record all by yourself with headphones on, end quote. Many countries, especially Japan, was not too open to the idea yet and still believed in the authenticity of the voices of their performers. So Nancy made a bold move and headed to Japan, where she was welcomed with open arms. And despite these challenges, Wilson managed to stay true to herself and her music without losing her fan base in the United States. In fact, her commitment to authentic live sound earned her even more fans in Japan. Her popularity in the country soared, and in 1983, she was declared the winner of the annual Tokyo Song Festival. Throughout the 1980s, she released a total of 5 acclaimed albums for Japanese labels, further endearing herself to legions of Japanese jazz enthusiasts. During her prolific and enduring career as an entertainer, Wilson witnessed the dramatic changes within the music industry, saying, and I quote, "It's now a record industry, whereas the business before emphasized nightclub performing concerts, television appearances, as well as recording records," end quote. She said to Edwards, recalling the entertainment industry of times past, although she misses the era that gave birth to what many call the real singers like Joyce Bryant, which I did a video for, and Lena Horne, which I did a video for, and Wilson herself, she insisted that the modern times have produced talent as well. She collaborated with legendary musicians like Dino Washington, Ella Fitzgerald, and Barry Manilow. Her contributions were recognized in 1990 when she was awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In 2007, Wilson released her 70th album titled Turned to Blue. She also hosted NPR's Jazz Profiles from 1996 to 2005, earning her the George Foster Peabody Award. Throughout her illustrious 50-year career, Wilson won 3 Grammy Awards, an NAACP Image Award, Global Entertainer of the Year Award, a Lifetime Achievement Award, and Oprah Winfrey Legends Award. Her final performance was on September 10, 2011 at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. Before her health declined, Wilson served as the honorary spokesperson for the National Minority AIDS Council. She was another icon who didn't forget where she came from. She was very active in civil rights movement and was inducted into the International Civil Rights Walk of Fame in 2005. Nancy Wilson's personal life was as fascinating as her professional one. She first tied the knot in 1960 with Kenny Dennis, a drummer who shared her love for music. They were blessed with a son. Despite her efforts to juggle a family, constant touring and recording, and a television career, Wilson's busy schedule took a toll on her personal life. However, as the saying goes, not all good things last forever. By 1970, their marriage had ended in a divorce. A few years later, on May 22nd, 1974, love knocked on Nancy's door again, this time in the form of Reverend Wiley Burton, a Presbyterian minister. The two hit it off instantly and decided to marry within a month of meeting each other. Their family grew with the birth of Samantha Burton in 1975 and the adoption of Cheryl Burton in 1976. Nancy's marriage to Wiley led to some changes in her career. She decided to step back from performing in certain venues like super clubs, but being the powerhouse she was, Nancy managed to balance her personal life and her thriving career for the next 2 decades. In fact, Wilson herself believed that performing less actually improved her shows, noting that not playing in the same venue for 2 to 4 weeks straight gave her a freshness and excitement to her singing. She and her husband had a ranch in Pioneer, California. They would bring in inner city kids from LA, Compton, etc. to get acquainted with ranch life and the various animals. They had horses, a buffalo, ostrich, emus, peacocks, etc. It was a nice change of atmosphere for the kids. However, 1998 proved to be a challenging year for Nancy. She lost both of her parents in November, which she described as the most difficult period of her life. Fast forward to August 2006, Nancy's health took a turn for the worse. She was hospitalized due to anemia and potassium deficiency. Doctors ran a series of tests while she was sustained on IV nutrition, and in March 2008, she was back in the hospital, this time for lung complications. Thankfully, she recovered and was reported to be doing well afterwards. However, later that year, she suffered another personal loss when her husband, Wiley Burton, passed away after a battle with renal cancer. Nancy Wilson's journey came to an end on December 13, 2018, when she died after a long illness at her home in Pioneer Town, California. She was 81 years old, leaving behind a legacy of music and a life rich with experiences. What a beautiful woman with a beautiful legacy. She aged so beautifully. Like, she looked like a silver fox, the feminine version, right? I love her silver hair. She embraced every inch of who she was, and she stood tall with her beliefs. And I must say, I agree with her even today, because how many of you guys are tired of seeing people with no talent? They cannot really sing. They're just gorgeous. That's it. And they're thrust upon us while you have real talented people that are grinding to make it, but because they don't look a specific way, they're not getting the chances that they deserve. I believe technology can be very dangerous. And now with AI, where they can imitate the voices of artists and just make them sing even if the artist doesn't want to, I think it's about to be a dangerous world with technology when it comes to music. And a lot of us are just accepting it. There will be death to art, especially with AI now even doing paintings, okay? They're writing books, so art will no longer have that authentic human feel to it. I believe everything will just be, full on technology, and you probably won't care because we're talking about art right now. We're talking about singers and artists and authors and stuff. But what happens when AI comes for your day job? Lawyers, doctors, accountants, etc. Even the garbage man, fast food restaurants, etc. What happens? And we have people like Nancy Wilson, who is speaking against this stuff since the very beginning. And she proved a point. She said, hey, if y'all don't want to let me have my standards and not alter my voice, y'all determined to not let me be great, then I'm going to go where I'm appreciated and celebrated. And that she did. Leave some flower emojis in the comments for her. One of the things that also bothered Nancy a lot was that, they used to pin her against Barbra Streisand a lot, in the sense that she never thought that she was making quote unquote Black people music, because she thought her music was for everybody, right? She didn't win her first Grammy until she was nominated in a Black category. That's when she was like, oh, so I'm a Black singer. Before that, it used to be she was always nominated against Barbra Streisand, and Barbra Streisand would always win. And I love Barbra Streisand. I did a video for her, and I feel like definitely is an unfairness in the system, because it's still like that today. It's still like that today. It's crazy to look back in history and see some of the stuff that our ancestors, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers and grandfathers, what they were dealing with, we're still dealing with today. Comment below your thoughts on that. Leave a flower emoji in the comment section for her. Comment below who else would you guys like me to add to my long, extensive list. I love you guys so much. If you like the music you're listening to, the link is in the description. Until next time.